There are hedge fund managers making $1 million an hour. You know, it's crazy, right? It's money everywhere. It's money in everything. I want to help you. Start your business today. Come join my royal family. Subscribe to Casino Is the Name. Hey, yo, what's going on right now? You're watching Casino Is the Name, and the question is $1 million a lot of money? And is that enough for it to be life-changing? So it's a two-part question. Is $1 million a lot of money, and is it enough for it to be life-changing? I was just watching a video where there was a podcast. I'm not going to say the name of the podcast, but the people were discussing this, and they were saying, you know, $1 million is not really a lot of money, and $1 million, well, they said $1 million is a lot of money, but it's not necessarily life-changing. And of course, however you're looking at this, you can say it's going to be based off of perspective, right? Like if you're somebody who done made $100 million or has $100 million, and you know, or you need $100 million or you need $80 million because of whatever reasons, business or real estate endeavors, whatever it is, then yeah, maybe $1 million is not a lot of money based off of that, you know, that individual situation. But if you applied it to the masses, if you applied it to what the average person lives off of, if you applied it to regular people, then absolutely $1 million is unbelievable. It's like an unbelievable amount of money. Yes, $1 million is a crazy amount of money. Now, does it mean that you can't spend $1 million? Of course. Of course it means you can spend, yeah, you can spend $1 million. Of course you can spend $1 million. Even a person who's never seen that kind of money before doesn't mean it's going to last them their entire life. But it is still a lot of money. And it could last them their entire life if they do the right things with it. What a lot of people who think about money like that, they fail to think about the amount of time. Let's say if somebody was making $50,000 a year. $50,000 a year, it'll take you 20 years to see $1 million. Now, if you make $50,000 a year, which the average person in America makes probably more than that, but if you make $50,000 a year, you'll still see $1 million over 20 years. So almost everybody spends over $1 million in their life. So when you get to thinking about, okay, yeah, it's not going to last, it may not last me my whole life, and you think about, well, you think about making $1 million over 20 years, $50,000 a year over 20 years, most people won't have anything to show for it at the end of that 20 years. If they make $50,000 a year and they haven't been saving, like, you know, they're just living, because it's not a lot of money in current time. $50,000 is not a lot of money. And if you look at it over 20 years and you ask somebody who made $50,000 a year, after 20 years, do they have $500,000 saved? No, of course not. Most people won't, right? Now, is it possible that they could? Yes, it's possible, but highly unlikely, just because of the cost to live. But when asking somebody, okay, well, if I give you $1 million, is that a lot of money? And you're thinking about, well, in 20 years, I'm not going to have anything. It's not the same. It's not the same. Or you may even say, well, I might spend it even faster than 20 years. It's not the same. So $1 million at one time allows you to purchase your home outright. It allows you to do a lot of things where you don't end up paying, you may not have to pay any interest on things. Or you can benefit from gaining interest over time versus if you were making $50,000 a year and it goes 20 years, you made $1 million, but it only feels like you made $50,000. It feels like you made $50,000. But if you got $1 million and you can buy your house, or you can buy a house for $150,000 and no longer owe a mortgage, that house is paid off. You were able to take $15,000 and go buy a decent car, and every 5 years you bought a car like that, and the rest of the money, I mean, you have a budget for food and things like that, maintenance, home maintenance, internet, light bill, like the basics. Say you had another $400 a month, so another $5,000 a year towards those things. You just carved out a budget. $1 million, and then with the rest you put up. Let's say you took out $200,000 the first year, and then you put up the other $800,000 into. You put up the other $800,000 into an account that gained interest, and you were able to maybe live off the interest because you no longer have a mortgage, and your food costs are low, things like that. You can absolutely make that money last for possibly the rest of your life, but it's going to also just depend on how you spend. So it's not the same as looking at $50,000 per year when you're not going to be able to buy a house with that $50,000 without taking out a mortgage, and you got to pay interest. You're not able to purchase a car straight out. So everything that you spend money on, you end up spending. Anything that you use to live, you end up typically spending more than you would if you had the $1 million up front. So not only is it less money at one time, but because it's less money at one time as far as making $50,000 a year, because it's less money at a time, you end up spending more money than you would if you just had a straight $1 million. So you got to think about it also from that standpoint. If you did just have a straight $1 million that you can do things with, you get the hedge against inflation, against rising costs, against interest rates, things like that. So you get the benefit from not having to spend that money towards those things on the negative side, and then on the positive side, you get to gain money from interest if you have money in index funds and things like that. So there you have it. It's not the same. That's all I'm trying to say. Anyway, right now you're watching Casino is the Name. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe, and we are out. There are hedge fund managers making $1 million an hour. It's crazy, right? It's money everywhere. It's money in everything. I want to help you. Start your business today. Come join my royal family. Subscribe to Casino is the Name.